I'm Rob, welcome to the Build and Investor podcast. Today I've got someone really special, in my opinion anyway, because without this guy I don't think that I would be in property at the moment and doing what I'm doing. So welcome to Mr. Jamie York.
Good to be here, excited for the podcast.
Yeah, Jamie, if anyone's been hiding under a rock for the last 5 years and doesn't know who you are, would you like to just give us a little bit of background on yourself?
Yeah, sure, no worries. So I've been investing in property for about a decade now, and predominantly I started with no money, and so I was a bit too nervous to talk to investors. So a lot of people, as you know, like to raise finance, joint venture, stuff like that, but I just didn't have that confidence. So I thought what I'll do is I'll start with deal packaging. Now, deal packaging, if you don't know the strategy, is where you have investors on one side, properties on the other side, and you kind of match them together. And I thought this would be a really good way because I didn't have money, so I could put in sweat equity, work my butt off, build my brand, all of that. Never as easy as it seems, even if somebody tells you it's hard. It's harder. It takes time, it takes energy. And so I started doing that, and then really most people at that stage, they use deal packaging just as the entry. And then they start making a bit of money, then use that money to get really into property. So I made a decent amount my first year, about 140k. Next year, $250,000. And I just thought, hold on a second, instead of just changing track, why don't I systemize and automate that and scale that up and really help investors and then use the money to build up. So fast forward now, we do about 400 to 500,000 a month in that business. We've obviously got the education business, which is smaller, but we're starting to build that up to a few million a year revenue. This is. Then we've got the loans business. And now we sort of got the end-to-end. So we're bringing mortgage brokerage in-house. We've got the refurb team in-house, lettings in-house. And the idea of it is to build like an ecosystem, if you like. So anyone that is interested in property and taking it seriously, we can help them. So 10 years on, we're doing 8 figures a year, built the portfolio. And as you said, that's how we met a couple of years back from an education point of view, and then obviously kept in touch.
Well, YouTube, I was flicking through YouTube, you find all the usual suspects, you, Samuel, Rob Moore, all the ones, and you're just the one that kind of clicked, stuck out in my mind.
Kindred spirits.
Yeah, someone that I thought I could kind of, have something in common with. Let's go back a little bit further then. Obviously, you started this 10 years ago. What was Jamie like as a kid? Were you the kind of person that was selling sweets on the playground?
Yeah.
Were you entrepreneurial?
Do you know, I was talking to somebody about this the other day actually, and who was I? Was I always deemed for success and stuff like that? I think I had the personality that was either going to be very successful or spend the life getting in trouble and seeing where it was. And so relatively, I say rough upbringing, not rough upbringing like I was knocked about or anything like that. My dad left my mum when I was 3 months old, and then he died when I was 13. And so very blue collar background. My mum brought me up as a single mum, 4 kids. She was on benefits up until I was maybe 14. Then she started working and become manager of All Days at the time, which then is Co-op now, bought out by Co-op. And so if you think of my environment, and we say nature versus nurture, so my nature was always hustle, work hard, all of that, but I guess with a slightly dampened moral compass when I was younger, if I'm honest, because the people that I was up around, there were a lot of people that it would be very standard that if I went to even the park as a 13-year-old, somebody would have a knife. That sort of upbringing. So a lot of that stuff was very normalised. Like you'd nick some sweets from Greg's or whatever it was.
I take it you were down south, were you?
I was down south, yeah. So in Dartford, in Kent, and so that was sort of somewhat. I had that hustle nature, and a few sweet stories which I'll go into later, and then blue collar upbringing. But then I also got into a grammar school. Now, if you're from up north, grammar schools are slightly different up here. I think there's what I would consider normal grammar schools, but also up here you can buy your way in. So like private school, so you can pay per term. Whereas down south, that's not what happens. A grammar school, you have to do an 11 plus. It's all paid for by the government.
Showing your age now, 11 plus.
11 plus, yeah. It's still 11 plus.
Is it?
Yeah, still 11 plus. Well, yeah, so when you're in year 6, you do an 11 plus and your SATs.
Right.
So your SATs is if you go to a normal school, it's what level grade are you going to go in? year, and 11 plus you do a test to basically get you into grammar school. That's what it is down south anyway. And so I got into grammar, which was really good. And it was I was one of the kids that, you always know the kid that just got in to grammar school, because there'd be the wicked smart people, and everyone was smart. You had to be top 15% of the country, right?
Was Dan at that school with
yeah. So Dan was the one that didn't just pass. Dan was the one that, like,
excellent.
Yeah, piece of piss, I'll pick what school I go to. Yeah. I just about scraped the barrel. So it's like it was that environment of a really wealthy school. So like it was great. I had a great education. But if you think about my home life, where it's benefits, upbringing, all of that, and then a school where I always use the example of Levan. Levan was a lovely kid, really nice kid. And at 17, I remember he was training for his pilot's license that his dad was paying for, and he was learning how to drive in a Jaguar, right? And there's me trying to work and save up to pay for my driving lessons, getting dropped off in my mum's van, stuff like that. And so it's nature versus nurture. So yeah, I had the nature of, I was a kid that used to sell sweets. Donuts were a good one. So there was a petrol garage down the road that you could get 5 donuts for £1 in the packet, and then I'd sell them for 50p each. And then Greg's used to do steak bakes, and there was a Greg's on the corner of Dartford Grammar School, is the one I went to. Yeah, but the Greg's closed down, and they used to be like £1.20 or something like that. I don't know what they are now. And so what I started doing when they closed is I'd go to Iceland, get 5 steak bakes, it's probably horse or whatever it was in there, get my mum to cook them, and then I'd sell them for either £1, I think it was £1 cold, or £1.30 heated up, and I'd pay the dinner lady 20p to heat them up, right? And like just shit like that. So my nature was that type of person. I think more importantly, my environment. So my environment back home was full of love, like great upbringing, like really well looked after. My mum backed me, fully believed in me, which
I can see you really close to your mother.
I love my mum, yeah, proper mummy's boy, yeah. But we didn't have money, so I had no standards of money. So every risk really wasn't a risk, because how'd you go downhill from the bottom, right? Now I guess you could go into drugs and all of that sort of thing, but that's was never really my scene. So then at school you've got this wealth and you're exposed to money. And so the money mindset kind of attached to this. And so, but I had this. And so I always say this to people. It's like I was a millionaire for years up here, way before it was in my bank account. So yeah, it was, your environment is everything. And I always say, like, your best life hack is moving away from where you were brought up. If you had a rough upbringing,
well,
like move away.
Something you teach, isn't it? You are a product of the 5 people you spend the most time with, and getting yourself into that school, I suppose.
Oh yeah, like
you're into a different environment altogether. So
a great example of this is like comments on ads. I don't know if you've ever run ads before, but we across the businesses we spend about 80 grand a month on ads across all of my businesses. Doesn't matter. Like, you can do an ad buying property, you can do an ad selling property, you can do an ad for education, you could do an ad, and I've actually tested this, giving away £10,000. You're scum. You're a scammer. This is bullshit. If you were so successful, why would you be telling other people how to do it? And it's like, Jesus Christ. And it's like, honestly, I used to be really embarrassed by them. Like, I'd get them. I'd be up, mate, at like 1 a.m. One come through, delete it, block it quick, because what if somebody sees it? And now, like, honestly, like, I usually just give a witty reply, but I genuinely feel sorry for the person.
I think it says more about them than it does about you.
Of course, yeah. Well, I just think, number one, what type of person genuinely just thinks that negatively? That's stage one. Then how bad does your life have to be where you stop what you're doing just to leave a comment to bring somebody else down? And so I just think, like, the problem is they probably spend time with people that genuinely believe it's not possible. And it's that Henry Ford quote, isn't it? Whether you think you can or you think you can't, you're probably right. Yeah. And those people, they have just as much potential as you and me, but they believe that where they are is where they belong. They don't believe in themselves. And I think some of our early conversations is probably quite apt to...
You're getting influenced by Dave from down the pub, aren't you? Which is, he's generally an expert in everything he talks about, but an expert in nothing. So. Yeah. So obviously, talking about education from when you were a lot younger, what was your education like to get into property? Did you actively go and seek education? Because I know you're a big advocate of education, aren't you? So.
Yeah, I'm a massive advocate of it now. I probably have a bias because I run an education business, so I make money from educating people. But outside of that, like I've invested hundreds of thousands.
I've actively heard you say a lot of times, though, you don't have to choose me to be educated. Just go educated.
Well, I don't give a fuck. It's like you mentioned.
That's quite admirable, are you with me?
I appreciate that. Yeah. Well, the reality is, like, say Samuel Leeds is a big YouTuber, great marketer. I'm a very different person to Samuel. Doesn't mean I'm better or worse. Like some people might listen to me and go, "Fuck, mine, he's boring." Fuck you if that's you, by the way. But it's like, but they might listen to Samuel and go, that he's a bit more happy clappy and all of that. And it's like, great, that might be amazing for you. That's just not me. I want to hustle, I want to grind, and I want to attract like people that are there for the money, not the happy clappy stuff. It's not bad though. There'll be people in Samuel Leeds' room that look at me and go, he's a fucking dickhead, I don't want to spend time with him. There's people in my crowd that will look at Samuel and go, no fucking chance you'll see me in a room with him. And so like your vibe attracts your tribe. And I'm a big believer in that. So yeah, the reality is, I think early doors I didn't believe in it. Honestly, I was one of the people, I used to go to the free events, thought I was hacking the system. So like the sales events and all that.
So around about this time, were you and Dan in leagues in property then when you were looking into education, or was it something that came later?
Dan was in the same school as me, so like we started the business with each other. Technically, I started it in the first year because Dan took a gap year at uni. Classic posh middle class kid, right? So he went travelling on his gap year, and meanwhile, me being the fucking mugs, grafted and started the business. So he was at York Uni, which is about 40 minutes from here, and I went, right, I'm going to come up to Leeds, set up the business, and then you come join me after uni. So that's how we did it. We started with no education, and homes under the hammer, if you count that as education, and I fucked it up, mate. I bought a 3-bed mid-terrace, 36 Burdett Street it was, in Burnley, and everything fucked up, like really fucked up. I bought it for 21,800. Long story short, my next door neighbour nicked my kitchen and installed it in his house. Like, it really fucked up, and it screwed with my mindset, because I started just thinking like a victim. Poor me, northerners would always take advantage of me because I've got a southern accent, they think I can pay more. Like, literally, that's what it is. Nobody's taking me seriously, I'm young, everyone's out to get you, nobody's got your back, all of that. So for a couple of years I did fuck all, and then early doors, and they're an education company that still runs Progressive Property, and so Dan's acquaintance at the time, guy called Alex Zipatowski, lovely guy, really great guy, strongly recommend people reach out to him, and he said, I got educated by these, and he became an ambassador, so he got a bit of kickback if you paid money. So I went to their free events, and originally I went there and I was like watching the people run to the back of the room, and I'd be like, fucking idiots, you just got all this for free, all of that. And then slowly but surely I would watch these people that, like, I was one of these freebie seekers, so if they signed up, let me know what they said, all of that, like the fucking peasant mindset. And it's like, but they started to do better than me. And this was definitely ego, and a little bit of ego is quite good. Too much is bad, but I'd have ego go, I back myself, I know I'm good, I work my ass off, why are they getting results and I'm not? And I just started thinking, well, what are they doing that I'm not? So I started investing myself. So it started, as you know, a little bit, and then a little bit become a lot. So I was started with minus 33 grand, and people were like, how do you start with minus? Loans, credit cards, the usual shebang, right? 0% credit cards, personal loans, and yeah, fucking grafted and got the best direction I could at the time of what was available. Was it perfect? No, but I think number one, it put me on the right track, and now I had something to lose. So the thing is, if I got to the end of a couple of years or whatever it was, and I had nothing to show for it, not only was it a waste of time, I'm now 33 grand down. So that bit of pain, it's like, don't know if you've heard this line, the more you invest, the more you're invested. Well, when you invest fuck all, you're not that invested in anything, right? And it's really hard to keep yourself accountable as well. Like, that's the thing, people moan about the 9 to 5, and everything like that. It's like there's something to be said about all you need to do is turn up and do what you're told, and you will get paid. And it's like suddenly when you're an entrepreneur, it's not 9 to 5, it's 5 to 9, and you don't get paid fuck all for the first 3 to 6 months. And it's like, and you have to keep yourself accountable, and you need to be motivated, and you're wearing every fucking hat in the business. So yeah, I guess what I bought is accountability from people.
And you've always got those people around you that think you're crazy, you know, that you're generally doing the wrong thing, that, you know...
I've had family members think I'm dealing drugs, like genuinely, even when I become successful. And in fact, I'll tell you this, so a distant relative asked me recently, and I say recently, the last year, I went, how much debt have you got? And I went, how much debt you got? I was like, honestly, I don't know, but tens of millions, like multi 8 figures. And they went, exactly, you're fucking broke. Stop trying to teach people about property. And I'm just like, so I don't think, no, it's not bad debt. And it's like, no, I'm worth tens of millions. And it's like, it's good debt that's allowed me to grow. But you have to realise, I used to take it really personally, but the reality is people want you to do well, but not so well that it makes them look bad. And the reality is, like, I had this from some friends that have now come back. I was talking to a friend that I've not spoken to for a while, like about 3 weeks ago now, and he was like, he said, like, a lot of people are jealous of you. And the reason for that, and I don't know if it's true all the time, by the way, but you have to think, if you've got your lads, your group of lad mates or girl mates, whatever it is from back home, and they've got a similar upbringing to you, similar exposure to you, but you broke away and suddenly you're achieving things, of course there's going to be an element of, oh, you think you're better than me now. It's like, oh yeah, wait until it comes tumbling down, then he won't, you know, things like that.
It's almost as though they'd be quite happy for it to all come tumbling down, which is not a nice thing, is it really? From friends as well. So
anyone, and I think people really need to hear this, anyone that isn't 100% rooting for your success is not a friend. It doesn't matter if I'll say this fucking bluntly, it does not matter if they're your wife or husband. If they are not absolutely rooting for you 100%, fuck them off. And it's like, I don't care if you've been married for 10 years and got 2 kids. Now, I'm not saying don't look after the kids and be present and all of that. That is not somebody you should be with. Now, somebody that's like, I've got your back, but I'm fucking terrified of this. We need to be smart. There's a house here. 100%. I'm not saying that, all right? But genuinely, the amount of marriages that I see and friendships that I see, where it's like, I've been together for so long. Oh, they've been my mate for 15 years. It's like, what? Have you developed? Are you a different person from who you were 10 years ago? Yeah. It's like, cool. What's the chances of you still remaining friends with that person unless they've also developed in a very similar way? And so, yeah, who you have around you is huge.
I can remember having this exact same conversation with you on a boot camp down in Brentwood a couple of years ago maybe. And yeah, I've got friends that I have literally not seen for 2 years now.
Yeah, and it's sad, right? There'll be elements of you that miss them naturally, but I also believe that you probably realise you're moving a bit more free, like, you know, mindset wise, and it's like, you realise sometimes that you've been trying to go for runs, but you've got these anchors around you, and it's not that they're bad people. Let me be very clear there. Like, they're just different now. They want different things to what you want. Let them, and let you do what you need to do. And it's like, if you have people around you doubting every move that you make and they vocalise it or you feel it, you know, the friends that you can feel them rolling your eyes, I promise you it's only a short amount of time before you start doubting you. And as soon as you start doubting you, it's game over.
Yeah. So obviously Aspire, as we know it now, and you know, all you can see it in all its glory at the moment. When did that start coming about? Was it Aspire from the word go when you first came here? And you were waiting for Dan to turn up? Or?
Yeah. Well, it's Aspire by word only. The vision of this really only came together the last 4 years, let's say. Okay. So I'd probably say, Aspire came from when we were talking about goals and aspirations and things like that, and what do you want from life, all of that, the typical down the pub. And then I said, just as fine, it's like, no, we need to aspire for more. Like, we need to aspire for greatness, aspire for wealth, aspire for health, aspire for family, you know, everything we want to do. And then Dan just went, that's it. Like, that's the name. So yeah, we end up going with Aspire, and we've made adaptations. It was Aspire Properties, Aspire something else, I think, and then Aspire Property Group. And so even now we're going through a bit of a rebrand. So Spire Property Group actually represents a very certain arm of the business, the portfolio building. But actually we're going to be rebranding. So Aspire Property Group will be the group name of all of the businesses, and then the actual portfolio building will be Aspire Portfolio. So it's sort of like the overarching will be 3 names, Aspire Property Group, and then every name underneath will be Aspire, one word after. So yeah, like in name it's been there. The vision of it, just honestly, like many things, it's called the failing forward mentality. It's like, just keep moving in the general direction. You will stumble across something, and then in Stoicism, in Stoic philosophy, there's a line that is, the problem is the solution. Okay, the problem is the solution. And so by moving in the right direction, we started having stumbling blocks. And one of those stumbling blocks was, we're working really hard, but actually we've got this real niche customer avatar, like the type of person we can attract, because all we're doing is sourcing. And
so had you got that almost like inch wide, mile deep
exactly
of what we're going to do, and it was a plan, was it over 5 or 10 years or so, and basically that's what you've moved towards?
Yeah, and at the beginning it's very vague, isn't it? Like, the more clarity you've got, the better.
Well, I've kind of probably over the last year recently decided basically what you've just said about having a business that actually, you know, creates capital that you can actually use to then put into property, because property is not really it's not a business that makes money straight away, is it? It's a long-term thing. So
yeah,
people that think they're going to get rich out of property straight away.
Yeah, people. The thing is, 90% of the New York Times or whatever Times rich list is invested in property. It's like, that doesn't mean they made their money from property. So like, the thing is, if you look around, and I think Katie showed you around the office, right, and sort of pointed out, it's like, they are businesses that happen to be property related, but all of them are sales and marketing businesses. Think education. What is it? It's sales and marketing. So I'm marketing for somebody that wants to learn more. They don't have the knowledge I do, and then I'm selling you that I can help you with that in an exchange of value. The product is property education. The sourcing business is sales and marketing. I'm marketing to people that have money that want to multiply it, and the vehicle that I help you multiply your money is through property. So property is the product, but all of those are property businesses that make me the money, and will do, let's say, $1 million a month on average, but will net over the year maybe like 4.5 million. And it's like, where does that 4.5 million go? Into property investments. But I made the money, and it could be, I don't know, I could be doing Amazon and making the money, I could be doing whatever storage, but the vehicle that it gets stored in is property. And it's a big thing, especially like with the education companies. Quit your job with buy-to-let property. It's like
30 days.
Yeah, quit your job in 30 days. And it's like, but the thing is, buy-to-lets, we did an interesting analysis on this. You'll sooner become a net worth millionaire building your buy-to-let portfolio before you'll make 10 grand a month from it, which is mad. Like, you will be a net worth millionaire before you make 10 grand a month. So property investments aren't really there to help you quit your job. Property businesses, okay, and that's the thing. Like, if people are looking to get into property, like really as the hustle and grind and all of that, great. It's like, build a business out of it.
Yeah.
And it's passive investment. Use somebody else.
Yeah, it's like 3 years ago, you know, I was fed up with construction. Been doing it for 28 years, whatever it was, and I just wanted to get out. And I saw property as the way out. But looking back on that now, I know that I need a business that, you know, creates capital. And it's like, I already own a business that creates capital. Why am I not working on that business?
Yeah.
So actually, which is what I've started to do, and you know, it's grown arms and legs over the last year. And
so we have opportunity vehicles, and this is really common. Like, I get mentees sometimes that think they're coming to be a mentee to build their buy-to-let portfolio, and do they? Yes, but as an outcome. And it's like, or they want to build their deal packaging business, and do they? Yes, as an outcome. But if they've already got an existing business, sometimes it's just like, well, how do we systemize you out of that business so that we can leverage that? So say you're doing refurbs and you're making 15%.
Yeah, or 20.
15, 20%. Yeah. So let's call it 20%. And what's your average refurb size?
Oh, can range massively. We can go from 30 grand up to 160 grand.
Okay. So let's say an average of 50 grand.
Yeah.
So you're making 10 grand. So it's like, okay, how do we systemize you out? So now you only make 8 grand, but now you've got a shit hot project manager so that you can focus on sales in there. And then how can you hire a salesperson? And now you need to become the marketer. And then how do you hire a head of marketing? And you scale that. And the typical opportunity vehicle, and you're following it to the T, is you have a service-based business. And then you get yourself out of that service-based business so that it's still ticking over, and maybe your profit margins, net profit margins, go from 40% to 30% because you've got the team in place and structured. And then what do? What's the most logical thing you can do? Excuse me. Is teach people how to do refurbishments properly, because there's a massive fucking gap in the market. People don't have a Scooby what to do, which is what you're doing now, right? Yeah. And then once you've done that, it's then how do you build a construction business in there? So then you're not teaching refurbs, you're teaching business.
Yeah, I love how they're all kind of interlinked and almost feed one another.
Yeah.
Obviously, you've got, if you're teaching people from the construction industry and they want to get into refurbishments with property, them three businesses kind of tie. It's kind of like what you're doing here. Everything's around property, isn't it?
That's it. It all talks to each other, and this is the thing, right? So if you've got the business of sourcing, well, when you source something, what have you got? Well, they're going to need a legal team. Well, why can't I own a law firm? Then they're going to need finance. Why can't I own a mortgage brokerage? Then they're going to need the refurb. Why can't I own a refurbs company? Then they're going to need management. I'm going to need that. Okay, so that's the first layer. Then you go to the front end and go, well, the front end, the sourcing is only for people with money. What if somebody's really interested in property, but they don't have money? That's where the education business is. Well, what do they need to use? Well, now I'm teaching people and getting hundreds of deals every single year and teaching hundreds of them. So they're going to need a legal team. They're going to need a brokerage. They're going to need a refurb team if I can go out management team. And then the layer underneath. Well, what's every investor doing right now? They're buying in limited companies. So they need unlimited company set up. So they need an accountant. Could I buy an accountancy firm next year? Could I find a shit hot accountant and go, do you want a partner? You own 25%, we'll own 75%, but we'll drive 1,000 people to it every single year. And suddenly you're doing this. And so once you really develop your skill set, this is why the first year is so hard. Like the first 10 grand a month is the hardest money you'll ever make in your life. Like it really is.
These last 18 months, I mean, I'm 46 this year.
Yeah.
These last 18 months have probably been the most difficult.
Yeah.
Well, not difficult, but hard, really hard.
It's graft, yeah.
It's graft.
Because there's so much input in terms of effort, but not a lot of output. Then I always say to people, like, 10 grand a month is going to be the hardest money you'll ever make. Getting from 10 to 50 feels illegal how easy it is. And it really is, because you've got the pipe work then already. It's just turning on the taps. But the thing is, what you really want to be doing in the first couple of years is developing you as much as possible. Because once, say your skill set when you began was a 3 out of 10, let's say your skill set now is a 7 or 8 out of 10, it's like, it's going to be big. And then all you need is the right skill set of individual, and then put that individual in the right opportunity vehicle.
See, I built my skill set not in the wrong way, but what I've struggled with more than anything is mindset from becoming a tradesman going over to being an actual businessman, because the ideological way of thinking as a tradesman is everything there, can I get on with what I'm doing, can I get away at 4:30 and can I be home with me tea and my valley by 6, are you with me?
Yeah.
That's the mindset. It's not like that when you're running a business, are you with me? You're thinking about the guys that are working for you, about them making you money rather than you making their life easy.
Yeah.
That's been the most difficult thing for me. I've learned so much in construction. There's probably not a lot that I don't know. We're all still learning, but
it's a tough transition.
Yeah, it's been difficult. So
it's a really, and even at my level now, I say even at my level, it's still very weird for me, because I'm still in that, like, I love getting on the phones. I love it, and it's like I love managing and I love directing, but they're 3 very different things. And actually it's like my job as the entrepreneur is to do everything. Then I hire people, and my job is as a manager is to remove obstacles for non-performance. My job as a director is to give strategic direction to a manager of how to get from here to here. And it's like, and then as a managing director, my job is to go correctly define Switzerland, right? And that's what we say as managing directors, is define Switzerland as clear as possible. Then your director under there is to create a strategic plan on where you're at to get to Switzerland as fast and effective as possible. Then their manager is to manage that into fruition and remove obstacles for non-performance from their team. And then the team is to deliver to KPI. They're so different. And it is, I get where you're coming from.
Yeah, most people in my industry, they will not understand what you've just said. Are you with me? It goes across the head. It's not the fact that they're incapable of understanding it. They're happy in where they are you with me? Some people are happy knocking nails in, are you with me? So it's a difficult situation for me, and my personal circumstances, been doing something for 30 years to actually change that. Well, you'll know some of the conversations we had.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Me spitting me dummy out a couple of times, and
every other week.
Yeah, every week. But yeah, it's been a difficult one.
It is a really difficult shift, and the thing is, I think when the downside is, before you knew about this life, most people are content, and then you get exposed to what life can really offer you, and now you're like, oh fuck, I've been failing.
It's one of them. Personally, me, can't speak for other people. I knew about this life, but looking from the outside in, it just looks completely unobtainable. It looks like, unless you've got the old scenario, unless you've got a shed load of money, you're not investing in property, and we now know that's false. 30 grand in debt, similar for me. Obviously, different points in life. But So, tell me about a partnership then, because it's something I've tried quite a few times over the years and just doesn't seem to work, and whereas you've been with Dan for a long time now. Yeah,
important to know, I've also had quite a lot of failed partnerships as well.
Have you?
Yeah. So the failed partnerships have been born from starting them from the wrong place.
Gotcha.
So it's been started from a place of scarcity. So for example, I won't mention names, but there was one where I just really liked the lads that were in it, and I was like, brilliant. Didn't test skill sets, didn't look at how we marry up, but didn't map out how our roles would be, and it was like, yeah, 4 of us, me, Dan, and these 2 other lads, let's go. And then we all did fuck all. Like, all of us did fuck all, and it was like, so none of us were really committed. They were kind of committed to their little gig, we were committed to our little gig, and we never really synergized there. So we just set up a company and closed it about 8 months later, right? Another one, nice enough lady, but just not my type of individual, let's say. So when things start to go wrong in business, that's often when you see people. And it's like, when things go wrong, I know what I'm doing. And it's just like, so Dan, for example, when things go wrong, he will explain it to me and then get out of my way. And it's like, because I will fix it. That is my mentality. Whereas Dan is like a way more cool head and like strategic type thinker. Whereas I'm just a doer sometimes. When shit hits the fan, strategy goes out the window, I'm gonna fucking put this nail in. That's what needs to happen. So they're the ones that didn't work, and often from a place of scarcity. The relationship with Dan worked because I didn't need him and he didn't need me. And so it was strictly based on 2 things. Number 1, he had a complete different skill set to me. Okay. And number 2, maybe a third thing as well. Number 2, we had very similar values. Yeah. Okay. So our values are all around the office. And it's like, they're our personal values and they're our business values. So they completely align. So like, integrity is at the core of what we do. And we value the word of others. We're a bit old school. Like, if you say you're going to do something, I trust you. And it's like, and I don't have this mentality of, you've got to earn my trust. So I don't do that. It's like, you've got my trust today, and it's for you to lose.
Until you actually lose the trust.
Yeah, and maybe that's a silly way to live. It's the way I love living. And so integrity is at the cornerstone. So how we make our money is always going to be more important than how much money we make, right? And that's really important to us. Now, the third thing is really important, and we didn't really realise this until later. Who's number 1 and who's number 2? Okay, there is no equal partnership.
Yeah.
Okay, at all. There has to be a number one and number two. In our business, I'm number one, Dan's number two. That is not, and it might be better going A, B, whatever. And I'm not saying that from a place of ego. The reality is, when a hard decision needs to be made, I make it. And everyone in the office knows it, despite the fact, like, and I'm not saying that from a place of ego. If you go to it, it's like, if there's one person who's the ultimate boss here, who is it? Even though we are 50-50 on everything, it's me. And the reason for that is my personality matches it. That's really important, because my ego would get in the way of that. I'll be honest with you. Like, I'm an egotistical person. So if you went, oh, Jamie's number two, I wouldn't cope with it. I'm a little sulky little bitch about it. Whereas Dan...
That's why I find it hard to believe that you wouldn't talk to investors at the start of your journey.
Mate, yeah, genuinely, I was terrified. But it's Dan that's very clear on that. Dan is like, I am number two. Yeah. And it's like, and so if there's a situation, he says it really well. He's like, if your number one's available, you send in your number one. And it's like, I think that is so important in business. And by the way, like, there will be people that I get into business with.
A real good quality in someone, though, to recognise if there is a better person than you. It doesn't have to be, I suppose, the head or the boss of the company.
Oh, no.
The best person for the job sometimes, and realising that is...
It's really important. Yeah? It's really important. And the thing is, I'm only number one in the final decisions. There's also a huge amount of decisions Dan will make and veto my vote on it, because he's right.
Yeah.
And it's like, so when I say I've got an ego, I'm talking about like the overall authority. But you can't have ego. Like, the decisions aren't based on what you want. The decisions are based on what the business needs. And it's really important. So when you're finding those, and by the way, it doesn't need to be your final decision maker and all. What that means, by the way, is Dan has his area of business. So for example, I'm heading marketing and sales. Or at least that's my strategic forte. And so when there's a sales decision, Dan might chip in, but ultimately it's my decision. Now, when it's operative, tech, finance, I will have input. But if Dan feels that I'm wrong and he's right, he will make that decision. Yeah. So that's the other thing. He's the number one there. Yeah. I'm the number two.
The fact that you're okay with that's the quality that you need. That's what I see lacking a lot. But I've just said to you, I've been involved in a few partnerships, haven't worked.
Yeah.
And I think it's solely down to that reason, that both people want to be number one, and
it's ego.
It can't happen. It just doesn't work like that. So
there's a line that I like saying. It's like, you have to let go to grow. Yeah. You have to let go to grow. It's like, in order for me to get to my next level and the business next level, I can't have absolute control of all areas, and you can't be a control freak. You have to delegate effectively. And if Dan is better at these three areas, then he's going to be the man that says yes to it and no to me. And likewise, if I know these one or two areas, then that's going to be me. And eventually, my hope is that I can hire somebody that's better than me. And it's their call to do that. That's when it's hard.
I've had this same conversation with myself recently about, is there a better person to actually run my company than me? And the probability is yes, there's probably someone out there a lot better than me that could do a lot better things.
Now what's really important is, the answer is no if you're looking for the same level of tenacity, the hunger, the care. Why the fuck would you expect it? Yeah. Somebody that you're paying whatever it is, 20 grand, 30 grand, 40 grand, 50 grand, whatever, it doesn't matter the amount. They will never care as much about your business than you. But skill set wise, 100%. Like, I have no doubt that you could hire somebody today that's better than you to run your business. The reality is, I could hire somebody better at being a managing director than I am, for sure. And it's weird, because if I'm going in the direction that I really want to go in over the next 10 years, I'll be hiring a proper managing director, and I'll just play a board role. And that's a weird thing to think, that somebody will literally be running the business that I own.
Company.
Yeah, and it's weird, but you have to let go to grow, right? Now, it's important as you do that, you delegate, don't abdicate. There's a big difference. Abdication is, here's that, fucking run with it. No. Delegation is, I'm going to meet with you 3 times a week. I'm going to set you up right. I'm going to do a midweek check-in. We'll sign off at the end of each week. Once we've done that for 6 months, we'll go for bi-weekly. Once we've done that for 6 months, we'll go to monthly. And you have to really slowly pull away. really slowly pull away from it. But ultimately, like, in order to grow, you have to delegate and automate as you go through. Really important.
Yeah, amazing. I tell you what, we spoke so much about Dan. I feel like we should get him on here as well at some point in the near
Absolutely,
future.
he'd love to, yeah.
Yeah, probably approach him. But we're getting up now to 40 minutes. People's attention spans on YouTube, as you know, after 40 minutes to kind of... So, would you mind closing it and give us maybe give us three tips on someone that's interested in getting into property, complete newbie? What do you think they should do? What should they be their first steps?
I think the first step is to see what's out there as strategies and people. I would just spend a month, 2 months, whatever you want to do, investigating it. There's no need to rush this. Go into some of the rooms, the free events. They're going to be selling to you naturally, which is absolutely fine. Leave your cards at home, and have in your head that, like, if you want to do it, you can come back to it, okay? Especially at the course level. Mentorship level, usually not. Usually they have like some sort of real scarcity around that because there's a lot of one-to-one time if you get the right type of mentoring. So number one, spend some time genuinely just exploring it, because a lot of people go, oh, buy to lets, yeah, sign up to a course, get excited, and then they go, actually HMOs are better for me. So you explore it all. Number two, within that, find the right personality to work with. And like I say, you might be listening to me and going, fuck that, and it's like, great. Or you might be listening to me and going, he seems down to earth, I want to work with him. There's other people. Have a little look, find it. Within that person, you need to understand what your skill sets are. Like, if you are fucking useless at talking to people, doing something like deal packaging or something like that, you're going to be rubbish at it. All right, if you can't communicate and actually pick up the phone to somebody or be willing to learn that skill, you're not going to do it. Number three, and I know I have a vested interest in saying this, but invest in yourself. And like, I really believe if you're not willing to invest in yourself, why would anyone else? Like, why would anyone else? And Warren Buffett says you are the best investment you can make. Now, I have a massive vested interest in that. Like, so caveat, I have an education company in that. So
are we going to have the word property in the comments for the YouTube video? And we'll pass them on.
There we go. If you want to find out, genuinely, if you want to have a chat, no bullshit, no like big pitch, just put property in the comments of this. I'll give a link to Rob, and you can just book in a free one-to-one strategy call. And if we're right for you, brilliant. If we're not, brilliant. You got some value. But genuinely, like, I'm not the only person out there. So, but get educated. Like, seriously, like, don't be delusional and think you can read some books about business and you know how to run a business. Don't think you're going to watch some YouTube and think you can successfully run a business. So yeah, do your research, immerse yourself for a month or two. If I'm the first you've heard of, don't go with me. Maybe booking a call, have a chat to help you, but don't go with me. Go check out other people, go check out strategies, narrow it down, go inch wide, mile deep, and then fucking go for it. Like, invest in yourself, back yourself, go all in, and actually jump in the pool and try to swim. You cannot swim by dipping your toes in. And they'd be my top three. And as I said, like, if it is with me, great. If it's not with me, great. But yeah, that would be it.
Yeah, well, I can vouch for you anyway, mate. But yeah, that was absolutely amazing. I'm a bit taken aback that you've actually come on the podcast, to be honest. So I'm really grateful for it. So
honestly, mate, I've really enjoyed it. You asked great questions. Hopefully, it's added value. And if you get a reaction and people genuinely like it, I'm more than happy to come back on.
Yeah, brilliant. So obviously, if anyone wants to get in touch with you, how can they do that?
Yeah, so as I said, if you're ready to progress, put property in the comments. I'll send a link. You can book in a one-to-one call with me or the team on that and have a chat. If it is just like, actually you're not ready, but you sort of want to chat, best place is Instagram, Jamie York Official. Make sure it's the one with the tick on it and not one of the fake ones. You get a lot of fake accounts made of me. So on there, and if you want to follow along, it's just Jamie York on YouTube if you want the long-form content.
Brilliant. Absolutely outstanding, mate. Thank you for coming.
Good to be here.
And I'll see you again. Cheers, guys. Bye.